You're listening to Podcast from COVID Gyan, your one-stop resource for scientifically reliable information on and conversations about the novel coronavirus and COVID-19. Hello everybody, I'm Shantala Haridas. With the recent outbreak and the rapid spread of the novel coronavirus, we at COVID Gyan wanted to take a deeper look at viruses, the novel coronavirus in specific, and how they impact the human population. In our last podcast, we began our conversation with Dr. Krishnan Raghunathan, who is a virologist at the Children's Hospital at the University of Pittsburgh. We talked about what is a virus, how do new strains emerge, and finally, how are viral diseases transmitted and cured. If you have not done so, please catch up on that podcast before joining us for today's conversation. Let us continue with the second part of our conversation with Dr. Raghunathan. The human population has seen many viral infections and disease outbreaks. The history of such pandemics is fascinating. Can you shed some light on this, please?
Yeah, we have always had epidemics throughout our history. The common terminology that we use these days is quarantine. Now, this has its origins in the 13th century when there was the Black Death or the bubonic plague that was going around Europe. Ships that used to come to Italian ports had to stay isolated for 30 or 40 days before they can actually trade with the merchants in the city. And the word quarantine comes from the Italian for 40 days. So this was like really long ago. Even now, we have other pandemics that are going on around the world. There are almost 38 million people who are now currently living with the HIV virus. This is another pandemic that's going on now. There is one pandemic that I'm particularly fascinated by with regards to the current coronavirus outbreak. This happened around 100 years ago, and it was called as the Spanish flu. This is one of the largest epidemics in recent history. This is also a respiratory virus like the coronavirus. And surprisingly, the country that had the maximum casualty was actually India.
We have seen three major viral outbreaks in the last 2 decades: SARS, H1N1, and the current novel coronavirus. Are we seeing a greater frequency of viral outbreaks, or are we just hearing more about these outbreaks?
In some sense, it is both. But the major factor that why we see a lot more outbreaks now is because of globalization. Now, over the last 50 years or so, we are starting to travel much more. In like 1970s, there were like 300 million flight travelers. Now it is a few billion. So air travel has doubled from 2000 till now. Even domestically, people are living in in bigger cities these days. I live in Chennai, where there are like around 12 million people now. It used to be around 6 million 20 years ago. So there is more contact between people that's happening these days. As you have more travel and more integrated work, someone who contacts the disease in a faraway place travels it and spreads it much more these days. And hence, newer strains of virus that emerge, which have higher transmission capacity, like the novel coronavirus, is able to spread much more throughout the world and infect far greater population than it used to much earlier.
You mentioned that the novel coronavirus has a higher transmission capability. Could you help us understand how this virus and COVID-19 compare with similar viruses and outbreaks that we have seen previously?
Based on the genome comparison, the closest relative to the current coronavirus was the 2003 SARS virus. Let's just compare the two of these viruses. The 2003 SARS virus affected the lower respiratory tract. It was much more dangerous than the current virus. The fatality rate for that virus was estimated to be around 15%. So if 100 people get infected by the virus, around like 15 of them are likely to die because of the virus. The current virus, on the other hand, is not as dangerous. It is still dangerous. 1 to 4% fatality rate has been reported. We still don't know what exact fatality rate is. That we'll have to wait for more data. But on the other hand, the virus seems to be much more spreadable. It has spread, as you can see, it has affected so many countries in such a short time. New scientific work has started addressing the reason why this is more spreadable than the other SARS virus. For that, first thing that we'll have to look at is the virus life cycle. For a virus to infect a cell, the first thing that it has to do is it has to bind to a molecule on the outside of the cell that can help it bring it inside the cell where it can actually replicate. Both the SARS 2003 virus and the novel coronavirus binds to the same receptor. The difference between the two is that the new coronavirus is able to bind to this much more strongly. This makes it much more it makes the virus much more likely to affect the upper respiratory tract than the old SARS virus. Because it is able to affect the upper respiratory tract, people can actually spread the disease from one person to another because of sneezing, coughing, much more easier than the SARS virus actually did. This has been one of the hypotheses that has been proposed. We still don't know if it is true. We will find this out pretty soon in the coming months, probably. One thing that I'd like to discuss briefly as a detour here is avoidable deaths. So this virus has now become a pandemic. A lot of people are getting infected by it. So because of that, there is a real danger that we'll run out of bed spaces and ventilators for a sec. And because of this shortage of such bed spaces and ventilators, we might have a greater fatality rate by people not having access to medical care. We need to do our part by social distancing, hand washing to prevent the spread of the disease so we don't overwhelm the system and we can actually reduce the amount of avoidable deaths.
The news cycle is very different from the science cycle. We are continuously being bombarded with updates in the news. On the other hand, can you tell us what has been the response of the scientific community to the COVID-19 outbreak?
You're absolutely right. Science moves at a much different pace than the news cycle. For instance, I mentioned that it takes almost 10 years for a drug to come from being synthesized in a lab to actually being used in a patient. This because like a lot of scientific questions that people try to answer are hard and they're time consuming. Scientists have to make sure that the drug not only works, it's also safe to use in humans. These things take a lot of time. Let's think about things in perspective with respect to another virus. We have known about the HIV outbreak for almost 40 years, and we still don't have a vaccine for HIV. Yeah, that's because we need to understand the virus. There are a lot of things that we still don't know about coronaviruses in general. For instance, there are 7 coronaviruses, including the novel COVID-19 virus. For instance, there are like 4 of these coronaviruses are very mild when they infect the humans. They are responsible for almost 30% of the cold outbreaks that we get. There are a lot of fundamental questions that we don't know the answer to. For instance, we don't know why some strains of coronaviruses are more deadly than other strains of coronavirus. But even with respect to the novel COVID-19 disease, we don't know why older people suffer and succumb to the disease much more than younger people. We don't know once, for instance, if we get the COVID-19 virus and we clear it, we don't know if we are immune to further infections from the same disease. And finally, we don't know if this is going to be a seasonal occurrence. We don't know if this COVID-19 is going to come back year after year after year. These are things that we still have to answer. While there is a lot of need for interdisciplinary research, clinically there have been a lot of work that has been going on. There have been a lot of collaborations, and the scientific community has responded to this outbreak in an unprecedented fashion. This is like first time. This is sort of a first time in scientific community. In 3 months, we have characterized the virus, identified its receptor, identified potential small molecules that can be used for treating the disease. We have also gotten like preliminary data from many early stage intervention studies that are available for other scientists to review and to make sure that it's all done correctly. We have also started getting potential vaccines that are getting ready for clinical trials. There are almost 60 clinical trials that have been started for interventions of this disease. This is extremely unprecedented in such a short time scale. Let's just take the chikungunya virus in comparison. This virus was discovered in like 1950s. It affects millions of people, and there are just 20 clinical trials for treating chikungunya disease. Yeah, but there are almost 60 for the current disease. And hence, the scientific community is actively trying to not just understand the disease, but also trying to develop interventions to treat the disease.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raghunathan, for having this conversation with us on viruses and the disease that they spread. Before we sign off, do you have any message for our listeners?
We have successfully overcome a lot of epidemics through history, even when we had much lower understanding of diseases and what causes the disease. In this case, too, we will collectively overcome the pandemic, the current pandemic. In the meantime, it's important to stay aware of scientific development. It's important to engage with and seek relevant information from trusted sources like WHO, India Biosciences, and so on. And it's important not to fall prey to unsubstantiated rumors on the internet.
Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Raghunathan, for helping us better understand the coronavirus and viruses in general, and how they have and continue to impact the human population. We hope that this two-part conversation helps our audience better understand the biology of the current outbreak. Thank you all for listening. Do take care, stay safe, and watch out for more updates from COVID Gyan. For more information on the novel coronavirus and COVID-19, visit us at www.covid-gyan, that's GYAN.in. COVID Gyan is a multi-institutional effort to create, curate, and spread scientifically reliable information on the novel coronavirus and COVID-19. Here you will find answers to frequently asked questions, mythbusters, relevant research efforts, a breakdown of the science of the current outbreak, resources to help you stay fit and healthy in the current times, conversations with scientists, health professionals, and other experts in the field, and useful links that we have curated from across the web. As possible, these resources will be translated into 11 Indian languages. Until next time, listen, engage, and share.